Welcome, everyone. I see Venerable Brahmavara. Brahmavara has joined us today. Welcome. And welcome everyone else as well. Glad everyone could come. Today, the sutta today is Majjhima Nikaya 7, Middle Length Discourse is number 7. It's a simile of the cloth. And the reason why I chose this simile is because we were discussing stream entry. And there's one of the fetters is Sila Bhatta Paravasa. And it's a wrong grasp of rules and rituals. And this is actually addressed towards the end of the sutta, but it also is the concept of purification. During the time of the Buddha, there were different rituals people did to purify their past karma or their minds. There was a lot of mistaken views about doing these like self-torment or bathing in particular rivers or doing these very specific rituals to purify the karma. But in this sutta, the Buddha is talking about purifying the mind. And if our minds are purified, it's actually required that our sila, or moral conduct, is pure. And it's not specifically addressed towards the end of this sutta as well. It actually is mentioned in the sutta about purifying our conduct through body, speech, and mind. So this is why the sutta came to mind. And it's such a beautiful sutta. Many of us are familiar with it. And it's many teachers refer to it and teach from it because it's such a rich sutta. So, and I see Venerable Kachayana has joined us from the Hermitage. So we can start. Excuse me. I have here the shared screen. I have someone who's very kindly. This is Bhante Bodhi's translation. I also have Bhante Sujata's. I think they're pretty similar. So I'll start reading. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Sawati and Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. Suppose a cloth were defiled and stained, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or carmine, it would look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is defiled, an unhappy destination may be expected. If I have the notes, I know it talks about the happy destination. So that can be, yeah, they're talking about future lives. So, Bhante Sujata says, a bad destiny, dugati, is any realm below the human, namely the animal, ghost, and hell realms. So, I've also heard that this is also can be talked about in the mind in this lifetime, our mental state. Suppose a cloth were pure and bright, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or carmine, it would look well dyed and pure in color. Why is that? Because of the purity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is undefiled, a happy destination may be expected. I knew that's what the word was. So this is Sugati, I think. Sugati. And this says a happy state. And I've heard teachers talk about not just like a state in a future rebirth, but states of mind. So the mind isn't corrupt. The mind isn't defiled. Bhante Sujato translates this as corrupt. So an uncorrupted mind or undefiled mind. So I was wondering if anyone, any of the venerables, Venerable Brahmavara, do you have a comment you'd like to make at this point? Or?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ayya. Yeah, I'm just at the moment interested in, you pointed out the word for the good destination, Sugati. And it's quite interesting because one of the titles of the Buddha, isn't it, is Sugato, and well gone. I mean, it literally just means well gone. And so there's a connection there for me with the liberated mind that, you know, if we can purify the mind, then it has a good destination, you could say, but also it can be well gone. It can also be, it gives us the opportunity to let go and free ourselves from samsara altogether. Also, there's that potential there. So that's what's really speaking to me at the moment from this first part. Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you. Venerable Kachayana, do you have any thoughts? No? Anyone else comment or question at this point? So then at this point, the Lord Buddha starts to get specific about corruptions or defilements of the mind. So he has this list. I think the upakilesa. It says there in the text shift from tata, corrupt, to upakilesa, or corruptions. So I think a lot of people know the word kilesa, and that's a general kind of, especially the Thai forest tradition, they talk about the kilesas, and that's a really general term for defilements. That the upakilesas, I believe, are more subtle. I wouldn't say they're refined corruptions, but maybe they're sneaky. I don't know. So we can start with this list of corruptions of the mind, or defilements of the mind. What bhikkhus are the imperfections that defile the mind? Covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Ill will, anger, resentment, contempt, insolence, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, rivalry, conceit, arrogance, vanity, negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind. I noticed in this list there's a lot of them that are anti-socially oriented. I was going to say socially or interactive, but it's kind of a little bit on the realm of antisocial behavior in relationship to others. Knowing that covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a bhikkhu abandons it. Knowing that ill will and so on, the negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a bhikkhu abandons it. Does anyone like to share anything at this point?
Yeah, I'm aware, Ayya Suvijjana, that there are other suttas where the Buddha is inviting us to consider these upakilesa and to review and kind of look inside ourselves and see, to what extent are we subject to these emotional tendencies or these reactivities, and to investigate. And I know for the monastics there's an encouragement to really make this kind of review every day at the end of the day to see, have I allowed any of these defilements to come into my action or speech or even my thought? And just to know, it's like not to make a problem about it, but to have the willingness to investigate and to see what's there, so that we then have the opportunity to be able to work with and to work towards letting go of these habits, so they can be very hidden. We can be blind to these kinds of tendencies. People aren't always necessarily so kind as to point them out to us, or they may feel they can't point them out to us, but we have to investigate for ourselves and see whether we're subject to any of these impurities of mind, and then only then can we start to let go.
Yeah. So knowing this. So it's really seeing that for ourselves, that these are corruptions, and reviewing. And maybe that's why I was saying it. There were upakilesas a little more subtle, so we have to be aware, like you're saying, reviewing what's going on in the mind and having this list. They're kind of really spelling certain behaviors out that we may not pay attention to otherwise. So yeah, thank you for that. I was also looking for the notes, and there's a long note talking about the different kinds of corruptions. I don't know if we want to get into the note. Should I read the note? Okay. So this is from the commentaries. It says, MA offers several tentative distinctions between covetousness, avijja, and unrighteous greed, visam, loba. Loba is greed, so visaba. But then it points out that since, from the standpoint of the higher training, all greed is unrighteous, the two terms can be understood as merely different names for the same mental factor, greed or lust. I paraphrase the commentary's explanation of some of the other mental corruptions. Resentment, upanaha, sets in after anger, has repeatedly enveloped the mind. Contempt, makha, is the devaluation of the benefits conferred on one by others. Insolence, palasa, is presumption. Yugagaha, arising when one puts oneself at the same level as others who have superior qualities. Envy, isa, is resentment over the honors, etc., shown to others. Avarice, macharya, is unwillingness to share one's own possessions with others. Obstinacy, tamba, is inflexibility, stiffness, rigidity, like a bellows full of air. Rivalry, saramba, is attempting to outdo others, to drive, to suppress their achievements. Several of these corruptions are defined at Visuddhimagga, or the Vibhanga, excuse me, and it's the reference to the somewhere in the Vibhanga. So yeah, this is a lot of it has to do with our relationship with others. That's what I was kind of saying. It was like antisocial behavior in a way, not a healthy way of relating to others. But they are mental factors. So even though we may be in our rooms by ourselves, maybe we have these corruptions brewing in our mind. So should we go on? Continue? So where were we here? So then we know that these are corruptions of the mind. And when a person, a bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, samaneri, samanera, all people, lay followers, has known that covetous and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind and has abandoned it. When a bhikkhu has known that ill will, negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind and has abandoned it, they acquire unwavering confidence in the Buddha thus. The Blessed One is accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of the worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. Now this is an interesting progression. So the mind has become pure to a certain extent, and then sada leaps up. Now, why would that be? Why would the confidence in the Buddha leap up when we've purified our minds? I'm going to ask Venerable Kachayana to answer this question. This is, please explain this to us.
Well, I guess if you've seen in your own mind that it is possible to abandon these things, then that produces faith. We can hear about the Buddha's great accomplishments and so forth, but so much of our path of practice is doing it ourselves and realizing it ourselves and seeing that it works. And it sounds like, if you really have been able to abandon all of these things, even these very subtle things, then that's a big shift in one's mind. It's a big shift, and seeing that for oneself is convincing, I guess, that you would acquire faith that it's possible, and that, not only for me, but the Buddha has done it. Maybe he's done it even to a greater degree. So that's my thought about it. I don't know if there's other ideas.
That sounds wonderful. I would say something similar to that, very similar. Yeah, that the Buddha gave this teaching and it was possible to do it, and I did it. And yeah, so you have faith and confidence. Yeah, similar to what you're saying. Did we continue? Or someone has something to say here, it seems. Coming forward.
Well, I've been reflecting past few days about right effort. And it occurs to me that these habits, this unrighteous greed and these other habits, we wouldn't say that it's the true nature of the mind to be afflicted in this way with these afflictions. But these are very strong habits. We've been harboring these upakilesas in our mind for innumerable eons. It's such a strong and powerful habit of the mind. It's possible that we grew up in a family where these kinds of attitudes were expressed so that we thought that they were normal. Or possibly we were in a culture where the other, people in our village or what we see on the media is promoting these kinds of negativities. And so we thought that this was natural. We thought this was normal. And then because of encountering the Dhamma and the light bulb comes up and says, oh, I could, this is really a painful sickness. I could abandon it. And then that step of realizing that we had it upside down. We thought that one thing was nature and their purity would be abnormal. But then the whole universe turns upside down and we realize that these imperfections are a disease or sickness, and that the purity is the normal state of the mind. And that because of Big Soul, it's just such an amazing discovery that would bring about our gratitude to the Buddha Dhamma someday.
So yeah, thank you so much. It's like the bird o'clock. Someone is saying that the dirty clock is the thinking that this is the way the clock should actually look, but then when you take and wash it, you go, isn't this amazing? And the Buddha was telling me that this is dirty all along, and I didn't really understand what it meant when it would be, how it would be when it was cleaned.
Good question.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
For me, when I'm caught in those mind states, there's just so much suffering around it, but just to know that, to be with that feeling when I'm not caught in those mind states, how much freedom and space there is, So that's what strikes me about it. Just that they're not they're not pleasant. They are not pleasant states of mind to be caught in. I want to be free of greed, and I want to be free of covetousness, and yeah, that's what came up for me.
Thank you. Yeah, this is understanding the truth of dukkha, the causes of dukkha, and the Buddha's teaching. So our sada would rise up. Your sada rises up because you can see that in yourself, how these upakilesas are dukkha. Thank you. Should we continue? I'm going to try to use general neutral as possible, as much as possible. One acquires unwavering confidence in the Dhamma thus. The Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One, visible here and now, immediate, effective, inviting inspection, onward leading, to be experienced by the wise for themselves. So just like the lady, was it Kusala? Was saying that her own direct experience. They acquire unwavering confidence in the Sangha thus. The Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is practicing the good way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way. That is, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. This is describing the Arya Sangha and the 4 pairs of the path and fruit for each of the 4 paths or stages of awakening, starting with the Sotapanna, and the Sotapanna is the stream enter, the Satyagami, the once returner, the Anagami, the non-returner, and Arahant, and the path and fruit for each one of those. That's the 4 pairs, 8 types of individuals. Does anyone have anything to add at this point, or should we continue? Yes,
Yeah, I'm just like interested, in how this simile's unfolding. So it's like, so if the cloth is dirty, if we have the obscurations, the defilements in the mind, then we can't take up the dye. The cloth won't take up the dye. But then if the cloth is clean, if it's pure, so if the mind is, temporarily or completely free from these dirty, obscurations, then the cloth is clean and it can actually take up the dye. And so I guess the dye is actually the dye of the triple gem. It's the we can take up, we can open up to, we can appreciate, because the mind isn't obscured. We can appreciate the qualities of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. And for me, it's like a gradual process. It's, like as the mind slowly emerges from the kind of Maya or the polluting aspects of the defilements, then I can appreciate more, over time. One can see that like a gradual appreciation of these qualities. And it's really worth, I think, like the monastics will chant these qualities of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha pretty much every day. And so considering these aspects, of the Buddha described in all these different ways, of the Dhamma, these are wonderful contemplations for us to open to. And there's a reciprocal as well for me. It's like as the mind clears, there's more appreciation of the triple gem qualities. And also, if I contemplate and reflect on these qualities of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, then that actually helps me, encourages me to face the defilements, with some sense of confidence. So it's like a mirror, isn't it? Reflecting. We can contemplate wisely, and then we can work with the defilements, and both these processes are helping one another.
So, there's a note in the Bhante Sujatos. It's talking about the sada. And this is a quality of someone who's entered the stream. And as you were saying, they're taking up the dye. That would be like they've entered the stream, and they're able, because of the purity of the mind, they can actually, their sada is very powerful. And this is the Bhante Sujato translates sada as experiential confidence. And the experiential is avicca, literally having undergone. Experiential confidence is faith of a stream enterer who has seen for themselves. So we see what it's like to have this mind that's purified because of the Buddha's teaching. So then there's these standard reflections, like you were, Venerable Brahmawara was saying, that which support that sada, deepen the sada. And so now it continues. So we've taken up the dye, the beautiful color of the reflections of the triple gem, and the heart is brilliant and joyful. This is a joyful reflection. When they have given up, expelled, released, abandoned, and relinquished the imperfections of the mind in part, they consider thus: I am possessed of unwavering confidence in the Buddha. And they gain inspiration in the meaning, gain inspiration in the Dhamma, gain gladness connected with the Dhamma. When they are glad, rapture is born in them. In one who is rapturous, the body becomes tranquil. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure. In one who feels pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. I think Bhante Sujato would say, immersed in samadhi. So when a mendicant has discarded, eliminated, released, given up, and relinquished to this extent, thinking, I have experiential confidence in the Buddha, the teaching, and the Sangha, they find inspiration in the meaning and the teaching, and the joy connected with the teaching, thinking, I have discarded and eliminated, released, given up, and relinquished to this extent. They find inspiration in the meaning, the teaching, find joy connected with the teaching. When their joyful rapture springs up, when the mind is full of rapture, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, they feel bliss. When they're blissful, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. So this is just reflecting on the triple gem, and also with the purity of the mind that comes from abandoning these defilements. Does anyone have something that would like to add at this point? Yes,
Yeah, yeah, I'm just taking in how connected, yeah, to have gladness and to have a feeling of tranquility, relaxation, how important that is in order for us to develop samadhi. You know, that you know, it's quite an important point. I think for many of us, you know, like when we're meditating, if we find ourselves kind of struggling or pushing ourselves or judging ourselves for falling short in some imagined way or other, it's like we're not going to make very much progress. But if we focus our attention on, yeah, relaxing, being at ease, allowing ourselves to feel pleasure in the body and in the mind, then this is actually the right direction, because it's only then that the mind can release, it can become more focused, it can become one-pointed. So I think this comes in many places in the suttas, but I think it's a really important piece for us to recognize, yeah, kindness, compassion, you know, allowing ourselves to feel glad in our meditation practice and cultivating enjoyment of the practice is so important if we want to sustain and to develop our practice. So this piece, yeah, just wanted to highlight, really.
mhm, yeah, rapture is a factor, one of the factors of jhana and or piti, and it's also an enlightenment factor. So yeah, so like you were saying, that it's the importance of it. And there's a note here from Bhante Sujata: reflection on one's progress brings joy and spurs further progress. This can be so powerful as to be a basis for samadhi. The relaxation, like you're saying, and well, also the absence of the defilements, the joy springs up, the confidence springs up. Anything else? Should we continue on? Let's see, are we on number 9? Yes. Okay. They consider thus: I am possessed of unwavering confidence in the Dhamma, and they gain inspiration in the meaning, gain inspiration in the Dhamma, gain gladness connected with the Dhamma, and when they are glad, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. I say this rather than concentrated. They consider thus: I am possessed of unwavering confidence in the Sangha, and they gain inspiration in the meaning, inspiration in the Dhamma, gain gladness connected with the Dhamma. When they are glad, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. So, did you see somebody with a raised hand or anything? I thought you said something. Should we continue? Okay. Is it 11? Number 11? Or okay. Is it 11? They consider thus: the imperfections of the mind have in part been given up, expelled, released, abandoned, and relinquished by me. So they haven't completely, so it seems like someone has entered the stream here, but they can see they would review it. They haven't completely given up, but they've given it to a certain extent. And they gave inspiration in the meaning, gain inspiration in the Dhamma, gain gladness connected with the Dhamma. When they are glad, rapture is born in them. In one who is rapturous, the body becomes tranquil. I think I read this one. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure. In one who feels pleasure, the mind, and it becomes immersed in samadhi. So this we go. Now the Buddha's changing his tone just a slight bit. Bhikkhus, if a bhikkhu of such virtue, such a state of concentration or samadhi, and such wisdom eats alms food consisting of choice hill rice along with various sauces and curries, even that will be no obstacle for them. Just as a cloth that is defiled and stained becomes pure and bright with the help of clear water, or just as gold becomes pure and bright with the help of a furnace, so too a bhikkhu of such virtue eats alms food, and that would not be an obstacle for them. So this means the greed or the desire for delicious food, no matter what kind of food is offered to them, their mind would not be destabilized by receiving such food. That wouldn't be an obstacle for them. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add to that idea? Yes.
It's really interesting here. Just leads me to reflect that this relationship with food, this pure relationship with food, there it is, and how we can eat for all different reasons, and we can use food as a way of distracting ourselves or suppressing even our difficulties. People eat to go to sleep in a way, to ignore things, to find some comfort where maybe there's not much comfort to be found in the mind, in the heart. So that's really poignant for me, and to recognize that when we're clear-minded and our heart is free from the obscurations, then we can relate to food in a normal way, which is as fuel, for the body. And we're so much more likely, I guess, then to, if we're able to eat healthily, to eat moderately, to eat the right amount, not to overeat, because these kinds of issues around food are born of our suffering, right? So it's quite interesting to hear this in this place in the sutta, and to consider then, what is my relationship to food, and why do I eat, and why do I choose to eat this and not that, and so forth. And the great blessing, of course, of being alms mendicants for the monastics here is that we don't get to choose what we're eating, and that's so helpful, because then we can reflect. We're given opportunities to reflect on this every day.
Yeah, it's actually one of the few things that we can indulge in the senses too. So I think this is maybe why, and that's why that reflection on the food is so important. And yeah, we have to accept what's given. So yeah, thank you. And so the Bhante Sujato has a note here: an offering of delicious food is normally the most sensual temptation in a mendicant stay. In the Chinese parallel, the Ikottara Agama, this is mentioned only after arhatship, So it seems like this person is, he said, it says to this extent, so I'm imagining they're not quite an arhat, but they're still not tempted by this food. And then it shifts again, the teaching shifts again, and it's a beautiful, this is such a beautiful progression here. So they don't have any obstacles in the mind. The mind has become joyous with the sada and the purity of the mind from abandoning the upakilesas. And then they abide, pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to themselves, they abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, and without ill will. So now they've entered the Brahma Viharas. They're starting to, this is actually one thing that we're encouraged to do when we're on alms ground is to pervade the four quarters with the Brahma Viharas, particularly Metta Bhavana. Bhante Sujata says, here the Buddha introduces the so-called divine meditations, Brahma Vihara, or immeasurables, Apamanya. These are four wholesome emotional states that can be developed as a basis for samadhi. They were evidently pre-Buddhist, although they have not been traced as a group in pre-Buddhist texts. However, they are shared with later non-Buddhist texts as Yoga Sutra and the James Tattavarka Sutra. And Bhante Sujata translates metta as love. Love is a universal positive regard and well-wishing, free of personal desires or attachments. Any comments at this point? So they abide, pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with compassion, with a mind imbued with altruistic joy, with a mind imbued with equanimity, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to themselves. They abide, pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, and without ill will. So in turn, they would be pervading the four quarters with each of the Brahma Viharas. Bhante Sujata says, compassion, karuna, is the quality of empathy with the suffering of another or oneself and the wish to remove the suffering. And he translates mudita as rejoicing. And here, mudita is altruistic joy. I think this is, mudita wins the Guinness World Record for the most names for a Brahma Vihara. That's just my, sorry. But anyway, so this is mudita, rejoicing. I've heard it called rejoicing joy, rejoicing in other people's success and goodness. equanimity, upekkha, literally, close watching, not interfering, but standing ready when needed. It is not indifferent, which is why it emerges only at the end, after the positive emotions are developed. So I've also heard the Brahma Viharas are called mature emotions. There's a or healthy or mature emotions. Does anyone have anything they would like to share at this point? Yes.
Yeah, I'm really noticing the sort of progression here of, the cloth that's cleaning up, the cloth that's getting clean, the mind that's getting clean, and the mind that's getting clean so that mind can experience samadhi, can develop samadhi, and that mind experiences this joy and well-being. And then the relationship to food is a healthy one, where we're not actually really that interested. It's just this material fuel that we take in for the body. How wonderful to be free of all the complexity of the ways in which we can relate to food through the defilements. And then this mind that's clear, as Ajahn Ayya Suvijjana was alluding, the mind that's clear of the defilements is like the true mind, or the natural mind. It's like the sun that's shining, when the clouds clear, the obscurations fall away, then we can see the purity of the mind. And that mind, the qualities, the response to samsara is the response of the four Brahma Viharas. So this is the healthy mind. The healthy mind will radiate, unconditionally and without any picking and choosing, or, without any particular object even. That mind will have a quality of loving kindness and equanimity towards all experience. And then where there's suffering, compassion will naturally arise as a response. And where there's good fortune, good conditions, then celebrating and rejoicing in that will naturally respond. So one could say that, all of this progression, it's really describing what is the healthy mind, what is the pure mind, how does it manifest? How do we experience that? So it's really uplifting. And of course, the other point is that this is the mind that fully appreciates the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, understands and appreciates the triple gem.
Thank you. That's really a good reflection. That usually we think we have to, well, it says we do need to develop these, but that they're also a natural state of mind, that what you were saying, that's really beautiful. It's a natural response to things when the mind is pure. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, pointing that out. Now here is the big leap. So their mind is purified, and they've experienced these exalted states, these pure, joyful, exalted states. And then they understand thus, there is this, there is the inferior, there is the superior, and beyond, there is an escape from this whole field of perception. Wow, that is just amazing, isn't it? And so you might say, well, what does that mean? They've had this deep insight. If you haven't, I looked in the notes, of course, they've had this deep insight after they've purified the mind, and they've gone through these exalted states and been able to overcome greed. And so insight arises, and there is this. This is one explanation of it, and then there's more than one explanation. there's this is the suffering. There's the inferior, that's the cause of suffering. There's the superior, which is the cessation of suffering, and beyond there is an escape from this whole field of perception, and that's nibbana. So that's how, one way it's described, is what that means. And that nibbana is going beyond perception, and a lot of our perception is misperception. Is cloud. Not only are we uprooting the upakilesas, but the impact of the sense gates is all our perception of what reality is, and that's a real limitation. So this has been explained to me. See, Bhante Sujato may have. Okay. He says, this is a description of advanced insight by stream enterer. We're still at the stream entry, which is interesting. But they're seeing that there is an escape. They do see that clearly. The meditator understands the current state of their experience, namely the mind developed through samadhi. They know that this is conditioned and hence liable to decline to a lower state, which is worse than this. So this would current state of mind, and then worse than this. I'm not following it quite. The superior would be samadhi, I would guess, and then they know that this is conditioned and hence liable to decline to a lower state worse than this. They know that there's still higher states of mind that can be developed. So that's the superior. And they know that while all states of meditation fall within the scope of perception, there is the ultimate escape, namely nibbana. So they both agree with the idea of nibbana. And Ayya Suvijjana is coming to elucidate us with her understanding of this.
I'm saying this because our regular member, Richard, I don't know if he's here at the moment, has reminded us that the four jhanas are associated with, if there's any little bit of clinging for existence left, they're associated with the rebirth in a heavenly state, and that's also connected to the Brahma-Viharas. So the inferior state is dwelling with the mind afflicted and being headed for a lower state. A superior state is to have samadhi and to be not yet at nirvana, but aiming for a superior state, a heavenly state. And then beyond that, the immaterial meditations, which are beyond perception, is something that the evidence in the sutras is kind of mixed about how essential or how necessary and important those practices are for the transformative insight and realization of nibbana. But definitely it is one way of coming to the final realization of nibbana, is to go through all the steps and stages. So it could be that in that context, that in this sutta here, they give that stage of being beyond perceptions. And then the next thing that's mentioned after that is nibbana. So that would be my thought about why that particular phrase is in the sutta, this position.
So that's another understanding of, like I was saying, there's several, and but eventually the real escape from this whole field of perception is Nibbana. So the stream enterer does have a glimpse of Nibbana, and they are said to possess the Four Noble Truths. So it may be a combination of those aspects. The mental states is also seeing the Four Noble Truths, but this is insight knowledge. This is what's arising at this point. It's a deep understanding. I mean, we've gone, it's just like this, I like to say the word quantum leap. This is from really purifying the mind and being in exalted states to really deep understanding. And then we go on to when one knows and sees thus, their mind is liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being, and the taint of ignorance. So that sounds like arahantship to me at this point. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge it is liberated. This is the mind. They understand. Birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. Bhikkhus. This bhikkhu is called one bathed in the inner bathing. So the cloth is completely pure and clean, and it's even further bathed internally. Bathed is sanatta, a rare variant spelling of nihata. Later Brahminical texts regarded external bathing as spiritually effective only when accompanied by inner bathing or purity of soul. But some felt like they could wash away the bad karma by doing this ritual bathing. So, should we continue on? Does anyone want to say anything more at this point? So the person has attained arahantship at this point. And the Buddha has said, call this person one bathed with the inner bathing. Now on that occasion, the Brahman Sundarika Bharadwaja was sitting not far from the Blessed One. Then he said to the Blessed One, but does Master Gautama go to the Bahuka river to bathe? Why, Brahman, go to the Bahuka river? What can the Bahuka river do? Master Gautama, the Bahuka river is held by many to give liberation. It is held by many to give merit, and many wash away their evil actions in the Bahuka river. So this is exactly what why I thought of this. And he heard this whole teaching, and he's still intent on ritual bathing. Maybe he wasn't quite paying attention until the Lord Buddha said this. Then the Blessed One addressed the Brahman Sundarika Bharadwaja in stanza. Bahuka and Adhikaka, Gaya and Sundarika too, Pajaya and Saraswati, and the stream Bahumati. A fool may there forever bathe, yet will not purify dark deeds. What can the Sundarika bring to pass? what the Pajaya, what the Bahuka. They cannot purify an evildoer, a person who has done cruel and brutal deeds. One pure in heart has evermore the feast of spring, the holy day. One fair in act, one pure in heart, brings his virtue to perfection. It is here, Brahman, that you should bathe, to make yourself a refuge for all beings. And if you speak no falsehood, nor work harm for living beings, nor take what is offered not, with faith and free from avarice, what need for you to go to Gaia? For any will be your Gaia. So, at this point, is there anything that anyone would like to share? Continue. When this was said, the Brahman Sundarika Bharadwaja said, "Magnificent Master Gautama, magnificent Master Gautama. Master Gautama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gautama for refuge, and to the Dhamma and to the Sangha of bhikkhus. I would receive the going forth under the Master Gautama. I would receive the full admission." So he at least is state, maybe Dhamma is sorry, or maybe he's entered the stream at this point. And the Brahman Sundarika Bharadwaja received the going forth under the Blessed One, and he received the full admission. And soon, not long after his full admission, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, the Venerable Bharadwaja, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here and now, entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clans people rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. And he directly knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming to any state of being. And the Venerable Bharadwaja became one of the Arahants. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Before your class, we need to give Sumatra, she needs to make an announcement.
So, Sumatra has an announcement at this point.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank
before
you.
we, before we close. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we should, that would probably be best to just do a little more reflecting on the sutta, and then Sipatra, we won't we won't close before we hear from you. How is that?
Yes, that'll be
Okay.
fine. Ayya Suvijjana.
Do you have anything you would like to say about the sutta itself?
Today, thank you for your very valuable teachings. I'm trying to make sure I write down the sutra number.
It's N7. It's what's the beauty of the Majjhima Nikaya is that the
7, right?
yeah, it's just M7. Yeah.
Of the Majjhima
Majjhima
Nikaya.
Nikaya. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I like it to hear when it is clearly in the text of the sutra that no magic holy river will ever, wash away, the consequence or karma of one's deed, because that is really where a lot of either unstudied or misguided Buddhists, especially in Asia, goes to, becoming more and more believing in sort of magic or magical absolution rather than what the Buddha's teaching, which is, having trying to develop a good conduct, or one shall say a skillful deeds, right? So at least there is something I can really refer to in the sutra, that yes, this is really what the Buddha said, not you said or I said or something like that. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really important. This is one of the things that's beautiful about the sutta. It does clearly say that the ritual is not the way for purification. We have to, through body, speech, and mind, we purify our action. That's by abandoning the unwholesome and developing the wholesome. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Anyone else would like to make a comment about this sutta?
Oh, I would. I think it's really a complicated sutta. And this Brahmin's question is a complicated one, which is steeped in eons of history in that part of the world. What is interesting is when the Buddha was asked who will be his witness that he's an awakened one, he touched the earth. And the Mother Earth said, I will be your witness. In my mind, that says that the earth is pure and the earth is so full of all the things that he's teaching. So in my mind, I'm listening to this, and the story is told in a very simplistic way, but there's much more to it than that is being told. This Brahmin would not attain that level so quickly unless he was already practicing some of these ancient truths. So it helps me to recognize that the Buddha's teachings touch to the heart of things. Hinduism tells it in these amazing, big-hearted stories. But the Buddha wades through all of that and just cuts to what the practice is. And so to me, as a born Hindu, I learned the what to do, and the Buddha teaches me how to do it. So I just wanted to share a Hindu perspective on my processing of what I've heard today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did say in the notes that later they were saying, or that there was also the idea that you did have to do the internal purification in order for the ritual bathing to actually.
Yes.
So
That comes first.
that has to come first.
Yeah.
So it alone cannot. It alone cannot.
Right.
And
It's the Vedic teaching.
so
So it's really wonderful to see it all put together in such a succinct story. But to be able to remind a Western mind that there's a lot more around that succinct story. There are eons of history and eons of Buddhas, past Buddhas, whose teachings have been around. And this one is reminding of all of that.
So I see Ananea has a virtual hand raised.
Thank you, Patipada. I think that's such an important fullness and background to add to what the sutta is saying. And I would also include, having been raised Catholic, that I remember I was not Catholic any longer, but I was in graduate school, and I happened to be doing a course on Abhidhamma, and I remember reading it going, oh my heavens, if the Catholics had just had this part. Because what the Buddha, in his full enlightenment, is able to show us and tell us is how you do this? How do you work with your mind? Sure, you shouldn't kill people, you shouldn't do this, you should be good, you should, have all of these the virtuous things. All of those are included in Catholicism, but the exact step-by-step process that one can take towards enlightenment and then eventually gaining full enlightenment. Nobody else shows this. No other religion that I've come across after years of looking, it puts this together this way. So, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that my dial pointed and I was led to this direction. That isn't by way of denigrating any other religion, and particularly I find with having been brought up Catholic the way I was brought up, I was not a cafeteria style Catholic. We were very, very strict. But there was a morality and there was a faithfulness that I did get from that. And I found that when I began studying Buddhism and especially when we were able to come and do meditation and sutta study at the Vihara, that there was this wonderful rising of faith and devotion. So I'm very grateful for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah. Well, I love this sutta, and it's just an amazing progression and really emphasizing the importance of the purity of the mind. It's nothing else is going to matter if, no matter, even if we're keeping our sila completely, to the letter, like the 5 precepts or something like that. If our mind is corrupt, still, we won't be able to make progress on the path, and we won't be happy. We won't be a pleasant person to be around. So, and I see that this another thing is there's this progression of sila and the Brahma Viharas to awakening and insight that comes up, and the sutta being so essential too. I just wanted to mention that again, that this is just such a rich sutta. Yeah. Anything else that we get another hit? Is it time? Oh, Venerable Brahmavari, you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'm coming back to, seeing there is the inferior, there is the superior, and there is the way beyond that. And I'm just struck by that, and coming back to the simile. So there's the dirty cloth, and we want to get rid of the dirt, and we want to clean up bathe with the inner bathing. And I guess all along the Buddha was relating this sutta to the person who was attached to rites and rituals and the outer bathing. So then he's explaining, yes, there's the inner bathing, but then developing these good qualities of samadhi and the Brahma Viharas. And then really the very crucial point for me being that, so then we have a clean cloth, we have a healthy relationship to reality, we have a pure heart, but also then there is the inferior, that's put aside, then there is the superior. And we don't want to hold on to that either. We don't want to hold on to any of it. So we want to put that clean cloth away as well. We want to let go of that also. And this for me is the crux of the Buddha's teaching. This is the piece. It's like how to purify the mind, but then we have to remember that this selfing will come into it all, will attach to anything and everything, and we want to let go both of the inferior but also of the superior. Don't hold on to any of it. Don't make it me or mine. So this piece, this is the escape. This is the pointing to Nibbana. So I love that short phrase there, inviting us to, yes, do the good work and don't hold on to any of it. Put it all aside, let it go. And only then can we liberate the heart.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so beautiful. Yeah. So we could probably end at that. Let's just end at that beautiful simile of the cloth and taking it even to let go of the beautiful cloth. And so Supatra has an announcement she'd like to make.
Yes, thank you very much, Ayya Suvijjana and Yabalamura, for giving me the little time. So for those that may not know, I am the new president of the board of the Dhammadharini Foundation, and I just started this year. And I just want to announce that there, behind the scene of what we are all here, there's a lot of logistical work that is going on. And we have a few people in the board, and but we need more volunteers to help. Not generally, when we talk about volunteers, we think about the annual volunteer day where we go to Aranya Bodhi and we clean the road and cut the tree, and that's great. That's one really great volunteer, and we come together. Now there's another type of volunteer where it's just not that physical and not that known. So what we are hoping that some of you that have some of this ability may want to consider volunteering. One is that we need someone who can help us deal with the insurance brokers. So, very, very mundane thing, but we do have, living in our country, we have many different types of insurance, and we are brokers, and someone need to sort of be on top of it. Right now, I'm doing that the best I can, but as a president, I have many other responsibilities. In the past, there have been a person assigned to just take care of the insurance, make sure we have a good one, make sure the broker can speak to one person, and make sure that things are paid or premiums are paid on time, or if there's any raise, let everyone know. That sort of thing is it's simple if you have been managing yourself before in your own insurance. So if you think that you have some time to do that and can take that kind of responsibilities, please do contact Dhammadharini. You can contact through the website, through the volunteers tab, or you can contact any ayahs that you are close to and say, I want to volunteer that. That would be very, very helpful. Another position that we are hoping to get is we would like to get someone who are local in the Bay Area, even better, in the northern part of the Bay Area, that can be like a community developer or community, I forgot the official name, but someone who can start reaching out and talking to the other Buddhist or spiritual community in the Bay Area, connect with them and connect with local people to invite them to come to the monastery or tell them about events, to develop sort of a connections in the local area. We would like to have that person. So also, if that person can love to throw events, we have talked about having maybe like Buddhist related films, maybe in someone's house or at the monastery, depending on what, and do some sort of small fundraising activities like that. If you love entertaining, or that side, God of the entertaining people. And you'll get all the help from everyone else, in the board and volunteer. But we kind of love to have someone who have that ability. So please do think about that. And if you think you are interested to help in any way, please do promote, how should I say, volunteer and let us know of your interest, and we'll contact back. Last but not least, after COVID, our donation has come down. I guess during COVID, people have nowhere to go, so there's more coming towards the monastery. Meanwhile, our expenses, especially insurance, because of the fire, is going way up. So would like to encourage anyone who is currently donating to think about recurring payment and maybe up it a little bit. And across the board, that will be helpful to have a little bit more coming in. So that's all I would like to announce. And hopefully that will inspire some of you to take on some of these support to Dhammadharini. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. So now we pose with our respects to the Triple Gem. We can think about that beautiful sutta and inspiration and how it led to the Brahma Viharas. So it's the expression of our gratitude to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And it's an expression of sada. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagavo Buddham Bhagavan
Sangham
Wakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamma
Namasa
Supatipano Bhagavato
Savaka
Sangho
Namami. Thank you.
Thank you all again. And,
Thank you, Ayya.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Venerables.
Thank you, Brahmawara, for joining us. Venerable and Venerable Suvijjana.
Ayya Suvijjana, are you well?
Let's turn off the
Yes.